and sideswiped another car stopped at a stoplight. Nobody was hurt.
Well, crime in Kansas City may be down, but it looks like the opposite is true. The homicide rate is up.
Chris Katz explains what's being done about it in This Week in Kansas City.
Good morning, everybody. This weekend on First News, we have paid particular attention to the city's rising homicide rate. The numbers suggest that overall crime is down in Kansas City, Missouri, but killing is up. We ended the week at 72 in the city. That's up from 65 1 year ago, 54 2 years ago. This past week, a new effort aimed at catching the killers. We welcome this morning somebody who's been on the front lines of this crisis, community activist Alonzo Washington, who has been successful in collecting information on unsolved cases for years in Kansas City. It's good to have you here. Thank you for your time. All right, this week we saw and we heard you on Hot 103 Jams asking people to call in with information about unsolved homicides throughout the city, but in particular one at 35th and Wayne this past week where an innocent man trying to protect his family from random gunfire was shot and killed.
Yes, I think that's very important. It kind of seals the deal. A lot of people look at urban violence and they say that's commonplace, but we have to realize violence is never common, and we need to be outraged when we hear about that. It was a drive-by shooting not too long ago. Just this morning, guy didn't die, but he was on his porch as well. So, it's becoming dangerous, and a lot of these beefs that's going on are young people fighting, shooting at one another. Being that they're not great marksmen, they end up hitting children, women, men, and it's a terrible scenario.
And taking the one case at 35th and Wayne this past week, just because we started talking about that this segment, this was involving two groups of young people that apparently had some sort of an argument. What are you hearing about this particular case?
Well, what I've been hearing about a lot of the youth violence going on is that there's a new emerging gang. We did reports with you guys about 5/8 Deuce naming who they're going to hit, who they're going to shoot in their rap videos. Some of those people have already died. Some of them are under suspicion of being shot. And I've been hearing in that whole neighborhood that there's this escalating beef, more or less like 5/8 Deuce is trying to intimidate all the other sects, Clack-a-Lack and all the others. And there's a potential for violence to break out at any moment. That's why I'm stressing to the community that we need to speak up. If we do not speak up, we're going to be held captive to this group of people who want to shoot.
From a much broader perspective, why isn't that people up north, in Johnson County, places outside of the urban core, rising up in outrage over the fact that there have been so many homicides in the city?
Well, I think it's the fact that we get this perspective in our community that as long as it's here in this urban core, it's okay. If it moves out, if it moves to the Power and Light District, it's a problem. And, I really think it's twofold. We need to have everybody involved. The community members that live in the urban core need to call. The police need to be patrolling these streets just like they patrol the Power and Light District, Westport, over in Kansas, they patrol the Legends. These high crime areas need to be patrolled a little bit more, and we need to get people out of their comfort zones. I've seen people march on the plaza about violence overseas. We need to have those same group of people marching in our communities because, if this violence affects one community, it's going to affect the other. We remember the lady coming from Lawrence driving in that area, and she was gunned down. So.
That happened on 71. She was leaving Starlight one night. Is it going to be until there is outrage in communities other than the urban core before something's going to be done about this?
Well, I think that's a part of it. I mean, I know that when the lady from Lawrence got hit, we paid more attention, but I blog about crime every day, and it's been all kinds of people shot on the bus stops of the metro, no major outrage about it. We as an entire community, black, white, Hispanic, all of us need to get outraged and begin to demand that we speak up. That's why I'm putting out my challenge. My challenge is we have 76 homicides. Normally every year we have 100, and I'm trying to get 24 tips to come in on unsolved homicides, not to be reactionary, but to be proactive. Let's begin to give tips. If you don't want to give it to the police, the tips hotline, you can call me direct and I'll take your tip. That's what it really is about. I'm tired of all the prayer vigils. I'm tired of all the marches. These criminals are not afraid of that. They do not make shirts that say stop praying, stop marching. They say stop snitching. When we don't talk, criminals walk. When we give up our voice, criminals are emboldened to do whatever. We see how they'll shoot anywhere. They know they have a good percentage of getting away with it because people won't talk.
Hang with us, because at the end of the segment, we're going to give you an opportunity to get in touch with Alonzo Washington in a variety of different ways. All right, when it comes to the city's homicide rate, far too many cases, and you've been seeing this for years, people saw what happened, know what happened, but won't share that information with police.
Yeah, that comes from bad community relations. That's why, you know, improvement and I'll just have to say this. Jim Corwin has done a great job in trying to resolve a lot of those problems, but they run very, very deep. And, you know,
they're not going to be solved overnight.
It's not going to be solved overnight. And I tell all my people, hey, look, you know, if you have a problem with the police brutality, you wasn't treating right, let me know. Let's deal with that. But when we don't give information, it only hurts ourselves. I know I have a certain set of tipsters that would never talk to police. They talk to me. And that's why I think what I do in the community is important. But I also know a certain tipsters that would never talk to me. That's why we all have to work together to address this problem.
You've been at this a long time. Do you see the relationship, do you see any sort of thawing between the relationship between the community and the police? On any level?
I'd have to say no. I mean, it's better. You know, I'm glad the leadership, you know, and I'm glad Jim Corwin has done some things to brace it. KCK, you know, the police chief there has reached out to me directly. You know, I used to be on the outside. couldn't even get with these people. But, you know, the fact that I've been effective of getting tipsters to talk that they have a problem with has helped me in that. But there's a long way to go. I just have to say no. Half of my calls when I'm asking for tips, people are calling me, telling me what the police did to them, and that's not good.
Okay. Look into your crystal ball. Do you see that relationship getting better? Especially when you talk about the things that the Kansas City, Missouri police chief has done to try to improve things.
It's going to get better, but you know, all I can say is that the police department cannot rest on its laurels. Service, respect. You know, so many black men feel like the police just want to lock them up. The police are against them. And, you know, sometimes perception becomes reality. But then again, when we see these YouTube moments with police treating African Americans badly, it hurts them in crime fighting. And that's why I say we have to focus on that. And then, you know, me as an activist, I made the decision, hey, look, I'm going to hold my community accountable. I'm going to be in their face. I'm going to be on KPRS saying, hey, look, you have to do the right thing. If I can challenge the police, I can also challenge the community. It has to be a holistic approach.
Alonzo Washington has a MySpace page, an email address, and a telephone number, and all of that information is up on our website right now at KMBC.com. Simply go to news links. It is there. As always, there is the Crime Stoppers Tips Hotline. We talk about that all the time, 816-474-TIPS. You don't have to give your name. There's cash available. But again, if the Crime Stoppers Tips Hotline is not for you, there's Alonzo Washington here. Thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, sir.
All right, back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Chris. Well, the Royals take another beating at the hands of Detroit.
Plus, the Kansas City Chiefs kick off against the Houston Texans. Highlights from the first preseason game next.